Going on, my friends? This is Coach Raul from Boxing and Sculpting. This is my second video that I'm doing, and I'm posting on YouTube. No, I have posted over 280 videos, but those are my training videos. These are actual videos now that I'm gonna be doing from now on, so that people can get to actually know me and know why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm still here on this earth. Well, let me tell you that I started this journey in the martial arts since I was born. But since I'm consciously aware, started like 1994, 95, started watching Bruce Lee films. I started watching a lot of Bloodsport, a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Started watching Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. Started watching a lot of Dragon Ball. And I want to thank my dad because he's the one that put me on to everything. So that was pretty much the beginning. That was my foundation. My dad also was a fighter. His dad was also a fighter in his own right, in his own way. We come from a village. At least in this incarnation, my body came from Peru. We're all Peruvians. So it's in my bloodline. I'm an Inca warrior. In my bloodline, I'm a warrior. My dad, my grandfather, they were all warriors. So I'm very grateful to have picked a warrior family to be born. And I'm very grateful for all my beautiful lessons and everything. Well, thanks to all those films, I started training in my house in Peru, in the hood. I started training. I started doing my own thing. And how I got here was my grandfather. He put in some papers. I would say around the 90s, early 90s, maybe the late 80s. I don't really know. And when his papers came through, he got us through, and that's how we came here. So I want to thank my grandfather for being very smart about it. I don't know the backstory of how he did it, but I know it was just more than just him. So I want to thank those people that were also there with my grandfather. I know that it's just bigger than my grandfather and bigger than me, but that's how we got here. I got here in around 96, and I continued my journey. I was in Cali. I came to Cali around 96, spoke no English, new to the country, and I was very grateful and happy that we moved from Peru. I got to see a different side of the world. I got to meet different people. I got to see different family. And as a kid, I was always very happy, very, very grateful to be alive, very grateful to have a family. At that point, I didn't know that my family was important to me. I was a kid, but I'm telling you something, my friends. Now that I look back, I can actually say that I had a very beautiful, beautiful, beautiful childhood. I can't complain about anything, man. When I came to Cali, I had it all, man. I had my uncle Juan. I had my mom, my second mom, Mama Lourdes. I had I had my female cousins Jennifer and Shayla. I had so many people. I had my uncle Jorge, Tio Jorge, who is an amazing man. Who, thanks to him and his influence, I'm also doing what I'm doing. So I'm very happy and grateful to all those men who played a pivotal part in a paramount part in my role of me still being here. I'm very grateful to those men. Those were beautiful men. Those were and still are strong men. Those are kings to me. Those are people that I truly respect. And Yeah, like I was saying, I came here in '96 from my first home away from home. Uh, when it was Cali, it was Los Angeles, and I was very happy and grateful because I had a very fun time with going into my second mom's house, my tia, which I call Mama Lourdes, who was my mom's sister, who was a very beautiful woman, an amazing, amazing cook. She's the best. She loves to bake, so when it comes to bakery, she is the best. Uh, Mama Lourdes always, always, always looked out for me. Always was very, very kind to me. She treated me basically like her son, and I was always very grateful to my mom. Always, always very grateful to Mama Lourdes. Mama Lourdes always taking care of me, always taking care of me, and so I arrived and everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect. The house was beautiful. It was clean. It was different than being in the ghetto in the hood in Peru. And I was very grateful. I didn't know how good I had it, but now that I look back, it was the '90s. It was beautiful. I was a kid. It was my mom, my dad later on came through, but it was really my uncles, my aunt, my aunt Lourdes, my cousins. Every, it was a beautiful family. I moved into an actual beautiful family. There was no violence, and it was very beautiful. It was very, very beautiful. I couldn't complain. Had a TV was working, everything was working, everything looked beautiful, everything looked great, nothing looked messed up. Come on, let's go. Everything was beautiful, and that's that's how that's where my studies of the martial arts continue. My uncle Jorge, who was also a fan of the martial arts, who is Mexican, who is of Mexican descent. In this incarnation, his body is of Mexican descent. So he was also a warrior, an Aztec warrior. So he has warrior in his bloodline, and he had a huge collection of VHS tapes back in the days, and a couple of DVDs, but mainly they were VHS. No, no, yeah, they were all VHS. Now they were all VHS. It's like '96, and man, I was just happy and grateful that in that house I got to see a lot of different movies like Bloodsport. I, I can actually see and have the actual tape. So to me, it was a big thing because back in Peru, I would have to see it I have to see it basically on TV. Now I have to wait for it, and now most likely I would have to fight my sister just for me to get time with the TV, with the remote. So thanks to Theo Jorge, who's a super cool guy, who to me is a very cool man, who to me who's basically a king to me. He's very, very cool. He's a very man. He's the best basically. So I would check out his VHS collection, and there was this one movie, Bloodsport. I think it was three. It was three if I'm not mistaken, or four. It was when um it was when I forgot his name. But the main homie went to prison, and he was fighting like his way out. He was fighting one of the homies who was a preacher, and basically the homie died. But it was thanks to those types of movies and thanks to my Uncle Jorge, Tio Jorge, that my education in martial arts continues. Back then, you didn't really have much. If you can, back in my hood, if you can run into a VHS tape, you were blessed. So when I went to Cali, I had it all. I had everything I always wanted. I had an actual family. It was a loving family that I moved into. My dad was not there yet. It was just me, my mom, and my sister, and my baby brother, Jeffrey. It was a very beautiful experience. I can't complain, man. It was a very beautiful experience. I'm so glad I I got to live that beautiful experience as a child. And so yes, so Uncle Jorge, man, he definitely helped me with my education on the martial arts. Uncle Jorge, he's the one that took me to see all these movies. Like I remember he took me to see Pokemon. This is back in 1999, 98, 99 when it was Pokemon 99. It was the first Pokemon, and I remember I got a Pokemon card. When when you when you want to see the movie, it was a beautiful experience, man. It was me, Theo Jorge, Shayla, and Jennifer. It was a very beautiful experience. Just give me a second. was a very beautiful experience. So I grew up as a kid. I grew up as a kid, a very happy kid, strong, jumping around, playing on the swings, jumping over things, just doing my thing, watching movies. Uh, and I watched a lot of Arnold Schwarzeneggers. Thanks to my uncle Jorge. My uncle Jorge was a big movie dude, man. He was a movie buff. I love my uncle Jorge. Man, I just had a real beautiful experience. I can't complain. And I would always have food. When I was in LA and I moved from Peru, I always had food. I always had food. It was a beautiful human environment. It was a beautiful, friendly environment. It was a beautiful, friendly environment. And I couldn't complain. I just couldn't complain. So I stayed in Los Angeles 96, 97, 97. I stayed there, and that's when I started going to school. And in school, there was a lot of Mexican kids, a lot of Salvadoran kids, a lot of kids from Guatemala, a lot of beautiful kids, man, a lot of beautiful kids from all over the world. They were all beautiful kids. We were all kids, and I will never forget the experience I had in going to school in Cali. It was very beautiful. I still remember the things that I did as a kid. Very beautiful experiences that I will never forget. Mommy, come here. Ivy. I'm with my baby right now. Ivy, come here. Yeah, so I remember a lot of things. I remember watching Batman, the animated series, with myself when I was with my grandfather, Raul Roroy. It was a beautiful experience, man. I love Cali, and I love growing up with my uncle, and I love growing up with my cousins. It's a very beautiful experience. One growing up, watching cartoons in the morning, watching Dragon Ball, watching Batman, Superman, man, watching all types of stuff, man. I was so happy watching all types of samurai movies, watching Bruce Lee movies, watching all types of movies, watching Saint Seiya. I used to watching all types of movies. I used to watch all types of Jackie Chan movies, Jet Li movies. Man, I used to watch all types of movies, man. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, man, what else? I used to watch all types of movies, man. So from there, I remember 98, 99. When I moved from Cali, it was 98 going to 99, if I'm not mistaken, but you can correct me, Vanessa, or anybody who sees this video can correct me, but I think it was 98 is when I moved from Cali to DC, from Cali to DC, no, from Cali to Maryland, to the DMV area, and from there, it was just another beautiful experience, another experience that just furthered my martial arts experience. I had already watched the Kickboxing series, all the movies, Kickboxer 1, Kickboxer 2, so on and so on. I saw all the spin-offs, all the remakes. It was a very beautiful experience. So I came to Maryland, and in Maryland, it was a little different than Cali, but it was still beautiful. I'm still in Maryland right now. I moved to Silver Spring in Montgomery County. I stayed there. I stayed in Montgomery County until I was 20. Damn, I like say 24. Let's say just say 23. So I stayed until I was 23. I moved out of Montgomery County, and I never went back until this very no, till this day. I never went back. From there, I went to PG County, and I started my life. I had a lot of things going on in Montgomery County that I'm not gonna get into detail right now, but maybe later on. But I lived a very beautiful life in Montgomery County as a kid. As a kid, it was a very beautiful experience. I can't complain. Lots and lots of fights. Grew up with a lot of Salvadorians, a lot of homies from Guatemala, a lot of Mexican brothers, a lot of homies from Puerto Rico, a lot of homies from Dominican Republic. just a lot of homies from everywhere, and a lot of fighting, a lot of a lot of ignorance, a lot of a lot of stupidity, a lot of the blind leading the blind, just a lot of ignorant shit. And when you don't have, when you don't know who you are, and when you don't truly stand for something, anything or anybody can take you out of your game. And if you have no foundation, eventually you will crumble. And I'm speaking from experience. Come here, Cookie, come here. So, man, as a kid in Montgomery County, man, it was a beautiful experience. I had a lot of beautiful experiences in Montgomery County that truly have changed my life forever. That marked my life forever as a now as a grown man, as a sentient being, as a God that I am. I've I've noticed that everything happens for a reason, but I'm gonna get to that later on. I'm going back to a story in Maryland. Okay, so when I was in Maryland, when I was in Montgomery County, again, when you don't have a foundation and you don't know who you are, and things at the house don't seem safe, and there's negativity, everything is low frequency. Mommy's fighting papi, papi's fighting mommy, your little brother's crying, his diapers are shitty, he's not eating, sister's working or sister's going to school or she's doing her thing. I'm not criticizing. You end up just leaving the house, and for some reason, the people outside the house, outside the building, in the streets, they end up being your family. But to society, from the outside looking in, these people will be considered gangbangers. They will be considered fools. They will be considered crazy. But to a homie who's been there and done that, who's lived in the environment and in the building where these so-called gangbangers live, these were our friends. So when all you see is what you see and you're in the environment, eventually you will become that environment. And that's from personal experience. So when you leave the house and all you see is the gang, and you go in school and you see the gang, and wherever you go and whatever you do in that small environment, and remember you're only 8, 9, 10, 9, 10, all you see is what people consider the gang, you will end up gravitating to those people. So that's what happens when you don't have a foundation. Wherever you go, you can easily be taken sideways, and you can easily start the life of what people call a criminal. But you started off just as plain, as a homie, just playing around with the homies in the streets. So that's pretty much what happened to me. That's what happens when the foundation is not set up correctly. You will eventually fall. You will go back to the so-called gang, or you will go to the gang. But to you, it's not the gang. To you, it's just the homies, and you know that once you're in it, you truly get to see the homies for what the homies truly is, which is homies who are confused. So it's the blind leading the blind. It's confusion, with just confusion and more confusion. So just be aware that anything can happen at any time, and you can't judge people because you don't know what they've been through. So that's what happened to me. Um, I went to the streets. The streets were my friends. The homies were my family. They were there for me in high school, middle school, high school. They were there outside the house. They were uh, they were there around the house. They were just there because I didn't know until I finally got in the gang, in the so-called gang. which to me it wasn't a gang, it was a family. That they were also hurt, they were also abused in the house, and that the streets was their way of just chilling and just having a fun time. These guys are not criminal. These guys are not crazy. These guys started off a bit. These guys started off as being someone's kid, someone's angel, and something happened. So I don't judge people. So that's what pretty much happened to me. Uh, one thing led to like another, and what happened was that led me into a lot of decisions that, because of those decisions, I opened a pathway that wherever I went, I would only get certain things into my life because I opened that pathway. Meaning that wherever I went, I opened that funnel. I would only get certain things in that funnel. It didn't matter where I went because there's that saying that you can take a man from the hood, but you can't take the hood out of a man. And I truly do respect that, and I truly do. Uh, I know that that is right, unless that person does not know that he is God. He is the he is the walking he is the walking embodiment of Christ. Even if he does not know it, he should always say it, because we're all one with God. We're all Christ. So back to my story. Um, you know, I got into a certain gang. I wouldn't call it a gang, but it was the homies in the streets. And I'm not gonna get into too many details with that, but it was the homies in the streets. It was homies, and the homies are, it just mean the homies, the Dominican homies, Puerto Rican homies, Salvadorian homies, Mexican homies, blacks, whites, Russians, all types of homies, Italian homies, Bolivian homies. Man, we had all types of homies. So we were just fucking around. Excuse my language. We were just doing our thing. Just doing our thing. And you're young. You're 14 at that time. You're 15. You're 16. You're fucking around. I'm still watching Dragon Ball Z. I'm still fucking around. I'm still doing me. And my dad, my dad was still like alive. My dad was still in my life. And all I can say is that path that I took, for good, for bad, or for indifference, brought me to where I'm at, brought me to where I am right now, which is talking to you. This is actually my second video that I'm making in my life, actually talking to the world, exposing myself. So I'm taking you back to when it was in Maryland. I must have been, with all that gang shit, I must have been like 12, 13. My mom, she was an alcoholic. She still lives in a way. She's not an alcoholic. She's playing the role of an alcoholic. She's not an alcoholic. She's the daughter of God, and I love my mom. Even though I haven't seen my mom in over 15 years, 16 years, probably even more. But I love my mom. But like I was saying, yes, man, I was in Silver Spring, man. It must have been 2003, 2004. It was me, my dad. We just finally, thanks to God, we have just moved out what most people would consider the projects, or what it was turned out to be the projects pretty much. It was low income buildings for Latinos and blacks. When it's all said and done, I transcended that. So my dad he finally got like a hustle up, and we rented out a house. This must have been 2004. 2004 was when all these things started happening in my life. I was 14 years old, still a young kid, a teenager at that time, young, a virgin, uh, you know, just a just a good kid, no tattoos, no muscles, no nothing, man. I was 14 years young. My dad was paying the bills. My mom would walk in and out of my life. My mom was going through alcohol, through some real alcohol like issues. She was going through a situation. She was going through something called life, and I was too young to understand that this is something that, in a way, that she chose, so she can know who she truly is when she surpasses, when she goes and and she becomes more than what she was told that she is. So I didn't know that. I just thought my mom was doing that just to hurt me. But I was 14 at that time. My dad finally moved us into a house. That house belonged to a woman from Chile, if I'm not mistaken. A woman that I'm always remember, and her husband. That was the first house that we actually officially lived in. It was a beautiful house. Me and my brother Jeffrey. We ended up finding a stray dog looking going through our garbage can, and me and Jeffrey, we ended up adopting the dog. We took him in. He was a dog for a couple of days. Yeah, he was cool. um I'm actually with dogs right now. Yes, homie. So at that time, I was 14. We finally got that brand new house. We was renting that house, and that was another beginning, another phase of another chapter in my life. I was 14. I was away from that building in Montgomery County. There was a lot of MS-13 homies down there. A lot of MS homies. A lot of MS-13 homies down there. It's a lot of fights between a lot of MS homies, a lot of Jamaican homies. A lot of wild shit was going down there. A lot of VL homies, a couple of them. There was some wild shit going on. I was witness to all that. I was 9, I was 10. It was 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. My dad finally got me and my brother like out of there because it wasn't easy going down there. I got into like many fights. So I've been fighting my entire life. There was gangs everywhere, and these guys have just migrated from El Salvador and from different places. They weren't bad people, like I said, but they weren't fucking around either. So, yep, Papi finally moved us out, and you know, I remember that house. I remember we went to a program where single fathers and kids who basically didn't have a mom, and they were going through stuff. Uh, they needed help, assistance. We went through a program where they would give us stuff for Christmas. And I remember when I got my first PlayStation 1, I will never forget that. My first PlayStation 1, it came in a box that it came in a PlayStation 2 box. So I was wilding out. I was like, I never had a Super Nintendo in my life, and I'm now getting a PS2. It must have been 2004. And when I opened it, it was a PS1. It was a gray joint, which I was very happy still, and it was the game Street Fighters. So I was playing a lot of Street Fighter. I think it was Street Fighter Alpha. I was playing a lot of Street Fighter back in the days, which was one of another, which was another of my influence why I got into the martial arts, a lot of Street Fighters and Tekken. So, man, I was 14, 2004. We just got a brand new crib. Me, my dad, my little brother Jeffrey. He was 7 at that time. Was taking care of his little ungrateful ass. And man, what happened then? Man, beautiful things were going on, man. My dad would bring women in and out the house. My dad was also a pimp. My dad always had a beautiful, sexy body. So, God bless my dad. He gave me them good genetics. So thank you. Thank you. It's my dad, man. I love him. So we was in, we was in a new house, and we must have been in the house, if I'm not mistaken, for at least, wow, we was only in the house for at least like an year, just 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe 2 years. Yeah, probably one. Yeah, probably like 1 year. Yeah, we was there for 1 year, but that 1 year was beautiful. Come on, mom, let's go. So we was there for 1 year in that house, next to a mall, Wheaton Mall, to be more specific. Man, that house had my own room, my own TV, my own PlayStation 1. I remember when my dad bought me my first pair of weights. We went to the Sears, if I'm not mistaken, and he bought those pairs of weights for me, brand new, chrome, adjustable. My dad was one of the main reason why I do what I do. So thank my dad if I ever walked into your life, man. My dad was a very beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man. Very beautiful, kind-hearted man. Crazy at times, but also very beautiful. And so, So that's what happened, man. I was there